It's time for ROTD Weekend. I am back from Savannah, a little bit exhausted, but very much inspired, both by food and by learning. I'm going to talk about the food first, then a tiny bit of learning. So I was there on my own, actually, for the first couple of days, and then I went to a conference. And those first couple of days were really about just wandering around and having a relaxing time. And I booked myself into a couple of amazing restaurants that I want to just tell you a little bit about because they were so incredible. If you find yourself in Savannah, Georgia, you have got to check out Common Thread and The Gray. So Common Thread first, I will just say one little caveat. If you're going to do the tasting menu, make sure there are more than one of you. I was on my own and they kind of do it almost, I want to say family style, portion for two people. And I was not really warned and I was eating as though it was being portioned out just for me. And I got really full before the entree, but everything that I was hungry enough to eat was sublime. So good. I think the highlights for me were an asparagus and green pea salad with charred bread. There were all these like herbs and a sauce. It was just one of the best fresh vegetable salads I've had in I don't even know how long. Oh, there was a fresh oyster that had like a strawberry little drizzle on it that was really surprising and amazing. And then there was this like roasted fennel and olive little plate with something, I'm going to say hummus, but it was not like hummus, more of like a tahini based other kind of dip or sauce. I loved those things so much. And I just loved being there. It was really a great experience, really good service, really good food. I loved everything that I had. So that was Common Thread. Oh, and I'll say about Common Thread that it was named in 2022 by Bon Appetit magazine as one of the 50 best restaurants, new restaurants of that year. And in 2025, it was nominated for Best Chef in the Southeast by James Beard. So you know it is good. It really lived up to all of those accolades for sure. Also living up to accolades was The Gray, which actually the chef of that restaurant, Mashama Bailey, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, won Outstanding Chef of the Year in the whole country by James Beard in 2022. And that was just a really remarkable experience. They have kind of a bar inside the restaurant for people who are eating by themselves. So I was sitting there and being served by these two gentlemen who were like behind the bar. They were doing drinks, but they were also like serving, I guess, as you get served at a bar, but it was part of the restaurant, if that makes sense. And I had a really nice conversation with a gentleman beside me who is a surgeon, I believe. So that was really fun. And like the vibe is just unbelievable. It is in a 1938 Art Deco Greyhound bus terminal that they've restored. And the music was like a 70s vibe playlist that was, just really fun. It was quiet enough that it wasn't distracting, but I was in this like groovy vibe the whole time. And then the food was the best part. This one is done a little differently than I've had before. You have to do the 3-course prefix, but that doesn't include a dessert, which is good because I want all the savory food. I don't really have a sweet tooth. So you actually choose a pantry item, a starter, and a main. And then if you want to do a dessert, you add that on later. And like the pantry item is things like pimento cheese, smoked fish dip. I had the crudité, which were garden radishes and tomatoes with like salt. And then they came with this amazing butter that had trout roe on top. It was just really fresh and delicious. And then for the starter, it's like a typical kind of starter. I had the mushroom midland, which I learned midland is like crushed rice. So this was kind of like a risotto, a mushroom risotto. It was unbelievable. I just wanted to eat that all day, except that then I had for my main course, the chicken country captain, the chicken dish. I almost never order chicken at fine dining restaurants, but I did my research on this one and I was reading all of the reviews from people who'd gone before and everybody was raving about this chicken and it was so good. I can't even explain. It had like a sauce and there was like some fruitiness to it. It was super juicy and tender. I loved that. I think I had dessert as well. I did. It was like a chocolate pudding. And now I can't remember why I decided to have dessert because I don't always or usually. I think I was just having such a good time. I wanted to stay there longer, But yeah, the dessert was really great too. So I loved the gray. I would say if you're just going to go to one restaurant in Savannah, make it that one. If you're doing two, Common Thread is also great. And really, I had amazing food at a whole bunch of different places. I went to a restaurant. Now I can't remember what it was called. Coastal something, I think. Oh, I can look it up. Yes, I looked it up. It's Coastal 15 and it's in the bottom of the Bohemian Hotel. And I just had one thing there. I had their pimento cheese and it came with something called chicken crisps, which it turned out was the skin from some chicken thighs that they had breaded and deep fried till crispy. I'd been planning to have that as an appetizer and then have like a salad or something, but I just ordered that first and it was really, really rich and filling. So fun though. And like if you're there with a few people, definitely go and try that. It was worth it for sure. I had oysters at a bunch of different places. I ended up being there for like a whole week, just the first couple days I was on my own. I had oysters at a whole bunch of places. I had really some great meals. Savannah is an incredible food city, so walkable, so fun. You just feel like you're in a different charming universe, So I was there, like I said, a couple days on my own, and then I was with other people. The other people I was with were other food bloggers. We descended on Savannah for the Flavor Media Summit. This was just a whole bunch of us getting together and learning from speakers who are experts in our area and from each other. We learned about search engine optimization, about newsletters, about social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We learned so many things and so many things from each other. I'm sure you know what I mean. You get together for this kind of thing and there's a speaker, an expert who is wonderful, but then you have these little side conversations with people in the hallway or over dinner and your mind just gets blown over and over again because everybody there is just so creative and brilliant and has such great ideas. So I loved seeing old friends there, meeting new ones, and I especially loved reconnecting with Megan Porta, who is one of the organizers of that conference, and she is also a food blogger like me who was a guest on this show. Megan is the food blogger behind pipandebby.com, and so I thought it would be a good time to replay our conversation from way back when, since I was away and didn't have time to record a new one. So you are hearing from the brilliant mind of the person who put on the conference that I was at, but she is not talking about the behind the scenes of food blogging here. We are talking about food and meal planning, about having a plan, and she has a delicious recipe for us as well. So now listen to my conversation with Megan Porta from pipandebby.com. Hi, Megan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christine. So happy to be here.
I'm delighted to have you on. I know we've talked many times about many things, but one of the things we've never dived into before is you are kind of an expert on saving time in the kitchen. So I wanted to ask you if you have a great tip for us for saving time in the kitchen.
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics all across the board, not just in the kitchen, but in life in general, because we all think time is precious. Time is precious. So saving time in the kitchen is so important. I do have a tip. So I have kind of a series that I walk people through on my blog, giving specific tips. But one of the main things is just that, like having a plan. Mm-hmm. So sitting down and thinking through your week each week, and not just in your head, but putting it on paper or in your laptop and just making a plan, thinking through who you're going to be cooking for, any gatherings you're going to be going to, or any gatherings that you're hosting. The plan, honestly, is the most important thing, because once it's on paper, once it's somewhere where you can see it, then you tend to follow through with it more. And that is a huge, huge time saver.
I love that so much because, it's also, I feel like when I think things in my head and don't put them down somewhere, I think that I've figured it out. Like I think that I've sorted it out, but I only half did. And then when I actually go to do it, it's almost like, you know what? I've had to do like speeches at people's like little toasts and things at like a wedding or something. And I think I know what I'm going to say. And then I go to say it and I'm like all over the place and not really coherent. Whereas if I just wrote down those few sentences, it's so much clearer. It's kind of like that, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And it's like holding yourself accountable too. When it's in your head, you can lose things so easily, at least I can.
Hmm.
But when it's on paper, you can remind yourself or on your computer or even a calendar on the wall. We have a little dinner calendar and I'm not always really great about being efficient with that. But when I am, it's like, okay, this is written down on the calendar. I know what I need to do. And that is like holding your own hand and just making sure you follow through.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I also think it helps with like when I actually actively do a meal plan and write it down, I take out my calendar and there's often stuff that I forgot was happening that week that I might have, if I was just doing it in my head, just on the fly, been like, okay, Monday this, Tuesday that. Tuesday, none of us are even here. And now I've like bought something, I've planned something, I've spent mental energy thinking about it, and we didn't even need to do anything that day. So it's accountability and like having that space to work it out. And then that saves you time everywhere.
We really can't rely on our brains, unfortunately, because we're so busy. We just forget things and we have the best of intentions. But then when it comes down to it, like our brains can lose information really quickly, especially if you're a parent
Hmm.
and you
Hmm.
have sports schedules to manage or, school events or whatever. It is so easy for me to just lose it, even when I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to remember this.
Hmm.
I don't. I forget stuff all the time.
So you have more tips. I just want to make sure people know where to go if they want to get your whole like walkthrough of time saving kitchen. Where is the best place for them to go get that?
Yes. So if you go to my website, it is Pip and Ebby. So PIPANDEBBY.com. On desktop, you can just scroll about halfway down. You can see the Let's Remove Stress from Your Week prompt and just enter your email address and you will get all of those 4 time saving tips sent to your email. If you're on mobile, you can just hit the subscribe button at the top and the same thing. And you will get those in a series spread out over a couple of days. And yeah, they're all amazing. And I get really good feedback from those.
Oh, that's so good to know. And I will put the link in the show notes too, so people can find it there easily. Now, do you have a surprise recipe of the day for me today?
I do.
Yay.
Okay. It is my mom's meatloaf recipe. And before you say, oh my gosh, meatloaf is disgusting, hear me out because I kind of have the opposite situation. My mom was a really good cook. We grew up eating this meatloaf and it was so good. It was one of our favorites. So when I became an adult and people were like, oh, meatloaf is so gross, it's so dry and, crumbly, whatever. I was like, what are you talking about? Meatloaf is so good. So I've just decided once I became a food blogger that I needed to spread the word about delicious, juicy, moist, just yummy meatloaf. So that is my surprise recipe.
I love it. I actually love meatloaf and I have sort of a similar reaction to you when people like, they get this weird look on their face and I'm like, what are you talking about? It's so good. I love it. I love it very much.
So good.
Okay. So tell me, where do you start with this meatloaf recipe or what? Wait, maybe just, I actually want to know, like, why do you think your mom's recipe is better than other people's?
Okay. I have 2 reasons for that. Well, 3. Number 1, like mom recipes are always just made with love and they're always just better. So there's no way I've found to replicate that mom love thing because her recipe is always better, coming from her. So that's number 1. Number 2, she just figured out a way to incorporate like really lean meat, but still making it juicy. So just all of the ingredients combined with the lean meat make it taste like it's the juiciest, like sausage or like a really fatty ground beef, and it doesn't have to be. And then the third reason is she puts a little kind of a secret ingredient in her meatloaf. Instead of using oatmeal or, saltine crackers, I know some people use crushed up. She always uses those buttery Ritz crackers and that makes this meatloaf so delicious.
Oh my God. I use, I think, breadcrumbs in my basic recipe, but now I will change immediately because that sounds so good. So
it is so good.
Do you taste the cheesiness of the crackers or it's just adding this like butteriness through it?
Yeah, I think it just adds just this buttery flavor through it that is just takes it over the edge from breadcrumbs or saltines.
Oh, so exciting. Okay, I want to hear all about it. Where do we start?
Okay, so you're going to cook this at 350 degrees in your oven, and you can just use a like 9 by 5 loaf pan. So you're going to spray that really well, and then also get out a rimmed baking sheet because I've had situations where the meat juices bubble over, and I mean, I don't want you to set your house on fire, so please put a rimmed pan under that loaf pan. That's a vital piece of this. And then you'll just combine all of the meatloaf ingredients in a large bowl. So it's 2 pounds of any kind of ground meat. So you can use ground turkey. We've even used ground venison. That tastes just as good as ground beef, by the way. It's kind of miraculous. You can use ground beef, but I would recommend using a leaner variety because otherwise it can get really greasy.
I think that's like you were talking about people not liking meatloaf. I think sometimes some people have this dry, crumbly thing and some people have this like greasy, oily. And it's, I think, because the meat's essentially cooking in the loaf pan in that fat and it's not, it needs to not be there or to drain away somehow. I actually make my meatloaf not in a loaf pan, just straight on a sheet pan. And I think that's like part of the same idea. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's like either or one of those polar problems. So yeah, 2 pounds of ground beef, you're just going to put in a large bowl, 1 cup of Ritz crackers crushed up really well. You're going to put a beaten egg in with a cup of milk. You can use any kind of milk. If you want to use a dairy-free kind, that is totally fine. A half cup of ketchup, and then you want just a little bit of chopped onion and really finely chopped. So I use usually about 1/3 cup of finely chopped onion. If you want, you can replace that with dried minced onion, like maybe a tablespoon or so. And then just salt and pepper. I usually use between a half teaspoon and 1 teaspoon each there. And then a half teaspoon of garlic powder. And then you just dig your hands in. If you don't find that gross, take off your rings, mix it all together, get it really good and mixed. And then here's another tip. Don't overmix because if you get that too mixed, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like the texture doesn't come out right after it's cooked. So you want to mix it, but you don't want it to be like creamy or anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I talk about this quite often too. My theory, and I would love to hear if you think this is correct. The reason that ground meat like tastes so good is because of those strands that it's kind of ground in. It's like fluffy almost.
Yeah.
And when we like mix it, we're just smooshing all those nice wiggly strands in and getting rid of whatever that fluffiness is. That's my theory.
I like that. Yeah, I've never thought of that, but yeah, we'll go with that.
Because it doesn't make sense that like mixing it should make it tough.
It really doesn't.
Necessarily.
Right.
But yeah.
But it does. Like if you know when you overmix too, because it's just kind of goopy in your hands and you don't want it goopy. You just want it like just nicely all mixed together.
Yeah. No, that sounds great.
And then you are going to throw that into your prepared loaf pan, spread it evenly, and again, place it on that rimmed baking sheet. And then you are going to bake in the preheated oven, so at 350 degrees for quite a while. It's an hour and a half.
Wow.
But then let's see, about halfway through, you are going to pull it out and you are going to put a magical sauce on top of it. So I can tell you how to make that sauce.
Yeah. So it's not just the Ritz crackers that make this special. There's also a magic sauce.
There's another magic sauce, another secret sauce.
Tell me the magic sauce.
Okay, so during the time when the meatloaf is cooking for the first half, you can make the sauce because it's really easy. So to make the sauce in a smaller medium bowl, you will combine 3/4 cup ketchup, a 1/4 cup brown sugar, a 1/4 cup apricot preserves, and you can replace that with like peach. You can replace that. I've done like grape jelly. I mean, you can really put any sort of jelly or preserves there, but apricot tastes delicious. It's my favorite. And then throw in like a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. You have to say it fast, otherwise it just doesn't sound right. Mix it together really well so it's nice and creamy. You don't need to heat it or anything. You can just use a spoon and mix it. So when the meatloaf is like halfway through-ish. It doesn't have to be exactly halfway. Pull it out of the oven, spread half of the sauce over the top of the meatloaf, and then throw it back in the oven for the remainder of the time.
Okay, does it taste like apricot? Like when you're eating the meatloaf later, are you like, ooh, apricot? Or is it just like, oh, so good?
I guess you can taste a hint of apricot, but it's not overwhelmingly apricot. The apricot preserves and the brown sugar and the ketchup make this magical combination of just like this sweet, just lovely flavor that complements the meat so well.
Oh, and you mentioned venison. I bet like with a game flavor too, like that
Yes.
and the apricot. Oh God, that sounds so good.
Yeah. So then you just let it bake, pull it out of the oven. And when you pull it out, make sure you let the meatloaf sit for a little bit, because if you try to scoop out the pieces too soon, they will get crumbly and they'll kind of fall apart. So I always say, let it sit for about 15 minutes before slicing and eating. And this is going to be really hard because it's going to smell so good. You are going to want to dig in right away, but trust me, just give it that 15 minutes and then you can slice it, pull out the slices, and with the remaining sauce, you can use that either heated or you can just use it at room temperature as a dipping sauce or to just kind of like glaze the top again. And it makes it look really pretty. So if you're serving it to people, they'll be like, oh, so impressive. It just is beautiful, but then also so delicious.
So, okay, I said earlier that I don't use a loaf pan when I make my meatloaf, and I think I probably did like 30 years ago or something, but I have not. And I had not thought about the slicing part. So you're not taking the whole loaf of meat out of the loaf pan and then slicing it. You're going in with your knife like into the loaf pan?
Right. So let it sit in the loaf pan for 15 minutes. And then when you're ready to slice, just take your knife, make a slice into the pan, and then you can a spatula won't work because, that's too big and weird. You can either use the knife to kind of lift out that first piece or use a fork. Just get something to wedge it down in there. The first piece is always the most awkward piece. Once you have the first piece out, maybe serve that to yourself if you don't care what it looks like. And then from there, you can just use a fork to kind of nudge the rest of the pieces out.
Okay, so the first piece will be hard, like with pie or anything else, or like it's
exactly.
Okay,
right.
Wow, that's great. And it holds together, the rest of it holds together really well after that?
It does, yes. But make sure you chop your onion really finely. Make sure your crackers are really finely ground. If you have too chunky of ingredients that go into it, it can contribute to a more loose, end result.
I love that you said that. That is one of my theories about meatloaf and even like hamburger patty problems too. Like I'm constantly saying, I actually say don't use onion. I say use onion powder. Or like you said, the granulated, but like, because as soon as you introduce those little pockets of like moisture and stuff that your knife might not cut through or like whatever that is, that's where it all starts to fall apart.
Yeah. And then you're like, why did this happen? So I like to just make sure I'm really clear beforehand before you do anything. Just follow those rules and you will get the tastiest, juiciest meatloaf. And nobody will ever know that it's ground turkey or ground chicken or whatever. I promise. Yeah, it's so good.
It's going to be good. Is this a recipe that's on your site, Megan?
It is.
Oh,
yes,
yay.
It is on my site.
Okay.
I have a few meatloaf recipes on my site, but if you just go to pipandebby.com, you'll probably share the link, but you just type meatloaf in the search bar and it's one of the main ones that pops up there.
Is it the only one with apricot preserves in it?
I think my Instant Pot, so I have an Instant Pot version that's pretty similar with ingredients. And that one, I think I use apricot preserves as well, but this one is just called meatloaf recipe with crackers.
Hang on. Meatloaf in the Instant Pot? Is it, I can't, so you have a loaf pan in the Instant Pot and then the Instant Pot's cooking it, or how does that even work?
So in the Instant Pot, I just use just like a round cake pan kind of thing. And I put the loaf in it's like a round, like a circle loaf. And it works really well too.
Does it cook way more quickly? Because that was a long time, the oven one.
The oven one is long. You have to have patience and like kind of have your stuff together if you need to get dinner on the table quickly. So yes, the Instant Pot version, I'm looking it up now, but it does condense the time quite a bit. So cook time for that is you cook it for 25 minutes on high pressure. And it does take the Instant Pot about 10 minutes to build pressure up, but that's like 25 plus 10, 35 minutes. So you're saving quite a bit of time. And it's basically the same recipe. I don't think I changed a ton. So if you have an Instant Pot and you'd like dinner on the table more quickly, then you can check that out too.
I actually I don't use my Instant Pot all the time, but I do like it for exactly this situation where I'm going to make meatloaf tonight. And then I get home 3 hours later than expected and my day is crazy. I have the same ingredients. I have the Instant Pot. I can go ahead and do that. And that is great. Will you tell me honestly, do you think the Instant Pot one is as good as your mom's oven version?
No. It's not. I mean, I wish I could say yes. I love the Instant Pot, and I
Mhm.
honestly, in most situations, would say that it makes things more delicious. But in this case, my mom's recipe is just, it's my favorite. That
Mhm.
long oven bake is so yummy, and I
Yeah.
don't know if you could ever beat that.
No, you get the browning and like all of that. You don't get that in these pot. You
No.
just can't. Well, Megan,
And
I
cooking the
will.
sauce in there too. Yeah, like baking
Oh,
the
yeah.
sauce for a little bit in the oven is just, you can't replicate that in the
Oh,
Instant
yeah.
Pot.
So is the sauce on, like you put it in on there? Sorry, I know that's not the recipe you prepared to tell me about, but I just am
No,
fascinated.
no, I think I do. So the sauce is complete. Do I do it completely separately? I think I make it completely separately. So it's not
Yeah.
like you're baking it in
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you do
yeah.
in the
Yeah, because
oven.
it's
Yeah.
not going to brown like it's just going to like run off of it and join the liquid in the
Yeah,
bottom. It's not going to be as good. Yeah, no, not going to
exactly.
be as good. Don't make it in the Instant Pot, everyone. No, just kidding. Megan, I will link to both of them in the show notes and then we give people options. Thank you so much for being on today. Can you let people know just again where they can find you? What's the best place if they want to see more of your ideas?
Yeah, just go to pipandebby.com.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I love Meatloaf and I adore Megan. And it was really nice listening to her voice in this interview and just remembering that I was just at this very special conference with her. So definitely go and check her out online, pipandebby.com. And if you're intrigued about the behind the scenes of food blogging, or if you are a food blogger, check out her podcast, Eat Blog Talk. It is really, really great, full of information for people like me, behind the scenes industry types in the food blogging and influencer world. And maybe I'll even see you at the Flavor Media Summit next year. That would be so cool. Okay, so I am back, and that means I am back in the kitchen. I am testing and shooting some recipes this week. I am finishing off an asparagus stuffed chicken breast that I just love. I mean, it's delicious. It's got this asparagus and like cream cheese filling. It's very easy to make, but what I love about it is when you slice into it, you see the spears of asparagus where they're cut, and so they're like almost like little green polka dots in the chicken. So I have actually made this a couple of times already in testing, and I have shot this once, and I'm going to try and capture it with the slice through the middle because I really think it's very pretty. So I'm going to attempt that. And I guess we'll find out in a few weeks when it goes up on the site if I manage to capture that beauty shot from the inside or not. But that is one thing I'm doing this week. And then I'm also perfecting a garlic butter shrimp recipe. I want it to be extra garlicky. And so the thing that I actually want to try doing, and fingers crossed it works, is making like a butter and garlic mixture that's melting, kind of like just warming on the stove for a little bit, and then taking half of it out of the pan and leaving it. So you know how garlic is more pungent when it's not cooked? I want half of that, like more pungent garlic. And then I'll cook the shrimp in the butter and garlic that's left in the skillet. That's going to maybe even brown a little bit. It's going to mellow out, soften, and then just at the last minute, add that garlic butter that didn't cook as much back in and toss it all together. So you kind of get both garlic flavor layers. The more mellow cooked, I don't want to go as far as saying it's like roasted garlic, but it's more towards there than the more raw garlic is, right? So you get both of those layers. So that is my goal. That's what I'm going to be trying this week. I will be letting you know if it works. You'll see it on the site and in this podcast if it does, right? So that is one thing that I'm trying this week. And then I am doing the same thing with avocado toast that I did with guacamole recently. Remember, I did that guacamole seasoning blend, which is a seasoning that you can have on hand to just mix into mashed avocado when you want to make a quick guacamole. I want to do the same thing for avocado toast. I mean, you could use the guacamole seasoning, but this is just going to be a slightly different flavor profile that you could sprinkle on slices of avocado that you've put on toast or mash into it. So I'm going to be playing with a few different flavor profiles, mixing them up, mashing them with the avocado, and seeing which one I think is best for the amazing title of avocado toast seasoning. So that is what I'm testing in my kitchen this week. As to what is going live on the site. Oh, there is a guacamole recipe going live, and this is one that either uses the guacamole seasoning blend or parts of it, and then you can swap out some things for fresh ingredients. So the idea here is if you have fresh cilantro, you don't add the dried cilantro, you add the fresh. And if you have green onion or red onion that you want to add to the guacamole, then you don't add the onion powder. So it gives the amounts and the swap outs so that you can adjust your guacamole to use the like pantry staples or the fresh ingredients depending on which ones you have. So that recipe is going live on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. And also on that day, I have a shrimp seasoning blend for you. So similar to what I told you I'm doing for the avocado toast seasoning a few weeks back. Oh gosh, I don't remember when. I did a whole bunch of different blends, testing different things and then putting them on shrimp and tasting them and seeing which one I liked best. And I was testing whether sugar in the seasoning blend was a good thing or not because I'd read that it helps the shrimp brown even though they have a short cooking time. I ended up deciding to not put the sugar in there. I don't think it made a difference. But anyhow, that is sort of a little peek behind the scenes yet again today of the developing of that recipe. So that goes live, the shrimp seasoning on Cook the Story this week, and the guacamole with those swaps is on the Cookful this week. As to what I'm telling you about on the podcast this week, well, you probably guessed it. That easiest guacamole recipe with those swaps, that is going on Cinco de Mayo. There are some air fryer chicken fajitas, so you can use that guacamole on those. The shrimp seasoning is going live on the podcast this week. Ooh, some steak recipes, 2 of them. And how to cook ground turkey is happening this week as well. Make sure you do not miss any of these episodes. Make sure you are subscribed. There are 2 ways you could do that. On your phone, go to cookthestory.com/ROTD and you will see the buttons to tap there, Apple Podcast, Spotify. When you head over there, you just tap follow or subscribe and then you will get a new episode every single day. The other thing you can do is just go to your favorite podcast app on your phone, whatever that is, and search for Recipe of the Day. You will find me. I am everywhere. I really am. And I'm all over social media as well. I am Cook the Story on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook and Pinterest. And I will say this conference that I was at this past week really challenged me to start putting my face in some of my social media videos. So if you are on Instagram, go and look for Cook the Story. You will see me, my face right there chatting about some stuff. It's an experiment, something new that I'm doing. But yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think. You can email me at cookthestory@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you and hear what you think about me being more on Instagram than I've ever been before. Yes, it's true. I really am everywhere, more of me than ever. Well, I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great weekend. Let's get cooking.